I mean, honestly, to tell the truth, if I won the lottery, I think that I would probably, I'd probably contact everybody I tattooed in the first 10 years and pay for tattoo removal and then just spend the rest of my career just redoing their tattoos, you know?
I am packing my bags for Omaha. Why Omaha? Well, it is the birthplace and current home of Warren Buffett. It's also world famous for its steaks. Oh yeah, and my buddy Dave Koenig lives there. You know, if you've watched our channel or followed us for any period of time, you'll find that I talk about developing your own style within tattooing a lot, discovering your unique marks. And Dave Koenig, to me, is a great example of someone who has done that. In fact, I think that Dave's mark making, Dave's style, has become so recognizable that he's probably one of the best crossover artists from tattooing into commercial art that I can think of. So I reached out to Dave and asked if we could come spend a few days with him, pick his brain, and watch him work. It just so happened that Dave had been invited to participate in the bodysuit show that Aaron Delavadova and Guru Tattoo host. And we showed up just as Dave was laying out his bodysuit design. So I'd like to invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy this one-of-a-kind Fireside Dave Koenig collaboration.
Wipe your chin, you got a little crumbs in there.
Oh, man, thank you.
You're good.
So I didn't have a particular point I wanted to start at, but I think the most kind of obvious thing that stood out to me that surprised me since we've been here is like kind of your relationship with this community, with Omaha. So we've spent some time at, and we're at a hotel right now, the Peregrine.
The Peregrine, yeah.
Where we're checking out this mural that you designed and helped paint.
That's probably a good view out here. So
Oh,
get
yeah.
out of your way.
All right.
Just sneak in there, man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that looks awesome.
It's perfect with the pigeons all hanging out, too.
Yeah,
Because down at the bottom, we got crazy little pigeons in there.
yeah, that's awesome.
But what was crazy is the one part I was even talking about was where the compass rose is up top. Arbor Street Studios, Sharon and her husband that were and their team that were doing the painting. I'm just astonished by how straight they made the lines through all that rubble and how they still got the blends and everything. They're phenomenal.
That's impressive, yeah. So I guess, I don't really know the process because there's not enough room to project, right? Were they able to get back and project?
So what they did is we set it up, and when I drew it, I had it separated, and I think in six sections. And then what they did is all these walls, a lot of these walls weren't here. It was still kind of rubble, and they could actually get pretty far back and shoot a projector in 6 sections, and then kind of get the whole outline on there.
But wherever we've been, we found ourselves wandering into another tattoo shop, walking the streets. It seems like people are grabbing you from the patios, saying hi. So I know part of that is just spending your life in one place, but maybe talk for a second just about first off, what's kept you in Omaha as you've grown in popularity.
Well, I guess Omaha's a hometown for me. It's good and bad because I remember when I started tattooing, I remember a lot of people telling me that start tattooing in one town and then move away. That way you don't have to see the bad tattoos you did in the beginning. But in Omaha, it's I still work on them. Actually, one of the guys you met in my class, he's got a big back piece, and we're covering up a back piece that we did 21 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
But in Omaha, yeah, it's just one of those things. It's it's middle of America, Midwest, nice, and I've just gotten to know people and the community. and then eventually I would just do my art, and I had art shows, and that's when I got asked about doing some branding and some design for Brickway Brewery and Distillery by my friend Zach Trimart. And then, you know how it is, the things just kind of snowball. That led to more things, and then,
He was a little self-conscious in the sense he's like, will you be able to touch up the murals? I did this back in 2015. Okay. With the help of Jeremy helped out. Though well, yeah, when I did it, it was like a different art style. But I remember Zach telling me, he's like, "Hey, I'm just letting you know, it's a brewery, so there's a lot of like, it's gonna get damaged." So I was like, "Yeah, no problem, man. I don't care. I just want to try it." And stuff, and right now I'm actually working on a agave spirit label for him. Looks like he pulled out the bottles of it, yeah. So, and this is, and this is the rare area. This is his actual like office.
Nice.
But you could see, like, yeah, we got the Stella right here.
Yeah.
We had the Ram there.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Which one was that? Oh yeah. The 10 Sanctum beer. That was for the shop.
Nice.
Okay.
What is the shape has 12 sides?
Hexagon.
No. Remember the song?
Decahedron.
Decahedron.
The first, I believe that looking at your work, the first thing that people have to notice is just is like the shape and flow, like the stylization of characters, the supporting elements, all those types of things. And we were talking a little bit last night about you getting some pushback on maybe a Native American design or something like that, but it was the subject matter thing.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, that's funny. That's like, there are layers to this, because I feel like, for the most part, the first thing that people notice has to be the kind of very unique ways of making marks that you have in the flow. So maybe for a second, kind of go into, we've got some footage of you working on this Athena piece that's for Aaron Delavedova's upcoming show. That's awesome. But your early stage process, how much are you pulling from reference? How much are you just trying to start with some loose kind of mark making and then establish a composition without thinking?
Kind of how I build the piece from the get-go.
Yeah.
With something like that piece, a lot of pieces, I kind of think, and with the Athena piece, I was actually traveling with my family to Greece. So that was like, I knew I wanted to do something in that subject matter. So then I started kind of, like thinking, looking up the different, and I've done a lot of paintings of like different Greek deities and like the stories that follow with them and everything. And I know Athena has probably been done a lot, but I was in Athens, I was in Sparta for a while. So I did I kind of combined the two by doing Athena with a Spartan helmet. And when I did it, that was one of the fun parts, is it's kind of going, okay, I'm going to find subject matter, and it's a mix of like, looking online. But then when I'm out there, it's like, let's, when we're at the museum right outside the Parthenon and seeing the statues and trying to sneak pictures of the statues when the guards aren't looking and stuff like that. But it's like, that got me kind of like, okay, this is how I want to do the body shape. I definitely want to incorporate a pillar. And, sometimes the referencing is kind of the fun part for me, because it's like, now I get to kind of look and it becomes, I don't know, it's like a hunt, And I have a background in anthropology. I mean, when I was in college, anthropology was a huge thing, especially like ethnography, the study of cultures, and finding the cultural things is really cool. And then to be able to incorporate them, just like Athena, you have the owl, you have Medusa, you have the spear, Athena's got the blue eyes, and I'm going to incorporate that. But then the composition of the bodysuit. So I asked Aaron, I was like, what size do we need? And he told me. And so I kind of drew it to scale. Well, not to scale. I drew it smaller. That one I had to draw on my iPad just because of travel's sake. But then, building the composition, and honestly, there's so many names for it. I like calling it serpentine curve because it just sounds cool. Right. Like I'll kind of create that curve through the whole piece. And then in my head, I kind of picture, the law of thirds, and I have my curve. And then basically all I do is I kind of pretend it's a giant piece of scrollwork or vines. And then I'll draw like the vine and scrollwork. So like when you're actually drawing scrollwork, it's like you might do your curve and then you do these little like C curves or more kind of coming off, layering it. And then what I'll do is I actually will start my pieces up by doing that. And then I'm like, okay, I know this big curve is going to be her body. So it's like, well, how do I lay, and I find my central, like, where I want my central subject matter to be. And then it's like, okay, that's the big curve. And then I'm going to draw in that and give it that flow. I just love flow. I like it when you look at a piece and my eyes feel like they can easily travel. You've got like one direction where your eyes will travel, but then it can keep traveling. And I like a drawing to look good on, a flat surface, and, being able to look good when it's on an organic surface, such as somebody's body.
All those ones, actually, all of them were hand painted originally.
That's cool. Were they all different sizes, or were about kind of the...
For the most part, like he has some cans too, and then we got all right, well, the Dead Devil whiskey, which is a hard one to get.
Nice. Yeah.
And this one, it's like, of course, it's a cinnamon infused whiskey. It's not like the ones where it's sugary cinnamon. They actually like let it age with cinnamon sticks and everything. I mean, this is amazing. This one's really good, especially like, during the holidays. Ridiculous.
Yeah, I bet.
But yeah, no, Zach's this is his art. He's a master. Yeah. And I'm super proud of, the buffalo. That was just a quick drawing, and honestly, out of everything I've done for them, I think that's the one I'm most proud about because it's on everything. And it's cool when you're in another state and you're somewhere and you just see it, like, and I'm like, oh, there it is right there, and
the fact that it's like recognizable and looks nice at scale, like super small, big, whatever. That's such a challenge. If you ever try to do so hard.
It's so hard to just like, that's the hardest thing for me because I like to cover a lot of mistakes or whatever by just making things overly detailed and making it fancy. Mm-hmm. Or I would often say floatia. Floatia is like a Portuguese term for fancy, but I could hide a lot of my mistakes. And honestly, that kind of explains a little bit of like how I tattoo. I've created a style that's loose enough so that I can get away with some of that. Just because I also know how I am and I get very ADD and I'm like, I want to have fun, but but then when you get into branding, it's like, it has to be exact. And a lot of people are like, well, why does it cost so much for this simple design? But in some sense, it's like, it doesn't. It's like women. Like, I couldn't draw women to save my life. I got adamant. I wanted to draw women. But the hardest part about drawing a woman face is you have to put like the least amount of lines into it because you want it to be soft. But those lines count. Like if that one line is just off, or the one little hole that you do for like a nostril is just a bit off, then she looks fucking wonky. So it's like you really have to put in consideration. And I feel like branding's the same way. So it's like, when I originally drew the buffalo, there was a lot more to it. And then I think it was my buddy Sean who did like, he kind of redid it so that it's like, okay, this is direct. What do you think? And then I'd be like, no, let's change this. Let's change that. And then he'd be like, how about this? I'm like, you're perfect. So, yeah. Sean Brainbridge. He's an awesome guy. Amazing designer.
Let's shift gears a little bit. We also spent a good time yesterday on following you around, and you trained Jiu Jitsu twice, and we've you and I have talked. You've been doing jiu-jitsu for many, many years, lots of martial arts. I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 6 months, but I've already had so many, I've enjoyed it. I've had so many interesting conversations with my coach, Mike, about kind of the parallels between, learning jiu-jitsu, learning tattooing, and I'm still kind of, it's funny, we've had interesting conversations, me coming from a tattoo background with no jiu-jitsu experience, him being heavily tattooed but is not a tattooer and is a black belt. And so it's interesting, I just wanted to pick your brain, having experience in both kind of arenas. What does one bring to the other?
I mean, first of all, congratulations. At 6 months, you're doing great because, a lot of people won't even make it 3 months, And you just keep pressing forward. And just like anything with jiu-jitsu and with art, it's just one of those things where it's like, you got to go through phases where you're hating and you feel like you're no good. And you just, I think that's why they always say, just show up, And just like I said, I was like a 12-year white belt or without it wasn't until I decided to just start losing, and I'm like, I'm just going to go in and, without the competition aspect, all of a sudden it dropped the ego. And then, with nothing to prove, there's nothing to lose. And so then art is the same way. So it's like, sometimes, especially these days, because you could just jump on social media and literally see the best tattoo that's done that day. And you can get inside your head if you're constantly looking at that and comparing yourself to that. And that will happen when you're in martial arts or jiu-jitsu, especially. Jiu-jitsu is the one martial arts that will humble you the quickest. But you go there and you'll see guys half your size and they're able to kind of roll you up, or guys that will they're just amazing at certain movements, and they can do stuff or pull things off that you can't. And then I'll do the same with art. You're seeing things that like even though I'm just saying the color thing, and maybe that's my ego getting in the way. I got to start embarking on that. But it was like women. I couldn't draw women to save my life, and instead of discouraging and being like, fuck that, I was like, okay, I got to just keep drawing them. And each time I did, I had to tweak it a little more and get it to the way I want, And it's the same with jiu-jitsu. This movement might not work. They taught me this technique, and for some reason I can't implement it. But then you just got to keep trying, because a lot of people will just give up. But you just keep trying. You got to do bad. It's got to look like shit. It's you're going to be depressed. And then all of a sudden, boom, something will click. Like everybody knows it. They think you're going for that. But a lot of times when I do that, they'll start to pull away. And that's when I get to hear, and I just bring them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But so a lot of those movements, you start, and I'll start to kind of bait it or put things out there, or bait my arm or whatever, so I can get to where I want to be. It's just scary in the beginning, because if you don't get it, you're fucked.
Yeah. I'm liking it to patting the top of your head and rubbing your stomach.
Yeah.
Because you have so many different things that you're keeping in mind, right? You got to keep the pressure. You got to close all the gaps. You're trying to maybe feed a lapel, but when you start, you find something that works for you. You find yourself kind of getting up, all lift up, and then that pressure's not there, and it's keeping that pressure, feeding it all at the same time. Everything is just merging together, and it's such a challenge. It's tough.
Yeah. Well, and it's really, when you get to a certain level, that stuff is kind of just happens, and it really is based on the fundamentals. The basic fundamentals of base, balance, wedges, walls, timing. Timing is a big one. And you work on those 5 things. Those things they're hard to teach, but you can learn, right? And those are the things where make everything else seem easier, right? Now, I'm not the type of guy who can think 10 steps ahead, but my position usually allows me to, get steps ahead of my opponent. But that's just because the fundamentals are solid.
You like chess, though. I mean, if you play chess, you have strategies, moves, and then you kind of flow with it. Mm-hmm. You'll put yourself, set it up so you're not in a bad position. But then you can go these different strategies, determining on what the other player will do.
Yep. And that's the thing, is I could come into a fight with a game plan, and a lot of people do, but as soon as he does something that I'm not expecting, that can throw the whole game plan off. So, Again?
Yeah. We make ourselves sound so smart. But
yeah.
We're just 3 dudes that like to roll around together. I love the artist high. You know, it's like I get it during, you know, even tattooing. There's certain points where something will hit me, and then all of a sudden, like it's like, oh, I get it, I understand, and then you go through that same process again where you're on that high, and then things slowly start to get harder, and then that means you got to work harder. You know, and it's, I mean, with jiu-jitsu, art, people say artist blocks. I mean, those are fictional. I mean, that's just your subconscious telling you to step it the fuck up. So it just means that you got to challenge yourself, you know, and it's just like you were saying when you see your kid doing a picture and they get discouraged because it doesn't look like yours, you know, it's like, right, you just got to keep at it. You know, we were all there at one time, you know, and
why'd you put the red in then, Space?
I didn't know what.
Oh, you needed it smaller?
And
You know, like this. Yeah, no. Big it up.
I like that.
I think now going to orange. Let's go back to orange. We're here, history. Here, I'm going to bring this down to about here. I'll now do your orange. Good.
You not being that.
You just want it in the center, right? Yeah. Yeah.
I don't like it.
The fish like nipping at you?
Those Greek fish are a little more aggressive, huh?
Yeah, I've heard.
The ones in Greece.
Right.
We saw some beautiful mountains. We saw some beautiful beaches. The Parthenon was cool, even though it was very hot.
Yeah. What dinosaur should I draw?
Your favorite one was the
Indoraptor.
Indoraptor? I'd like to see it because I've never seen one before. That'd be cool.
Have you watched Jurassic World, the second one?
Jurassic World. No, I saw the Jurassic Parks. I don't know if I've seen the Jurassic Worlds.
Look up Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom and you'll see the Indoraptor.
Okay. Is it like the star of that one? Is it
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's the hybrid of it, but there's the cool part is there's two things in that one. It is that, yes, the raptor's one, but then the other one is there's a volcano about the raptors.
you know, sometimes you fall back, man. I mean, I think I was rolling or demonstrating something, and my teacher was like, "I do an una pelada," and I was like, I just brain farted. I was like, "Wait, what is that?" And I'm like, you know, but it happens. We're only human.
Right.
Whoa, that's fucked up. That's dirty. I like it. I'm gonna use it on Shay next time.
That's a shoot wrestling thing. I won't do it hard.
Okay.
Yeah, so like if they're super tight, I can't get my hand in here. And one simple thing that I'll do, I mean, I make sure to lay the pressure on. Sometimes I'll slide my elbow up right here, and then, and her neck comes right up.
That's terrible.
You just can't fight the urge to like pinch your shoulders.
Oh my god, that is
Well, I mean, the body just,
terrible.
there's reactions and the body just moves. So you hit a certain thing. And I think that's a shoot wrestling. It's just a shoot wrestling move. So, yeah, if I'm here,
Okay, so if you're
I'm
fighting
super
here,
tight and you're having a tough time getting this hand in,
and you bring
sneak that elbow a little higher on my spine, right there. Now press and pull. Go ahead and push down with the, See, the natural reaction is I'm going to go up or I'm going to go sideways. And then you just slide a hand right in.
Interesting.
that is awful.
Shouldn't have showed you that.
Josh is like,
All right, one more.
okay.
This is what's awesome about this sport. Like, lower belts can teach upper belts thing. Like,
Yeah.
you can learn from everybody. It's awesome.
I learned that my spine doesn't like elbows.
Something that struck me that my coach has talked about a little bit, you know, as I have no martial arts experience before jiu-jitsu outside of like some taekwondo as a kid. And at that point, it was like you went through the routines and you got your belts kind of through that. So it was a very specific order of operations, a limited experience I had. And the thing that I keep getting that I'm slowly learning from my coach is like how individualized, almost like we talk about unique marks in drawing and tattooing, how individualized jiu-jitsu is and why it is truly kind of an art is like, I can't tell you how many things like that we'll be working on that my coach will be like, I don't use that. Like, this isn't a type of pass that I would do. I don't do body locks. Like I can show you how to do it, but I don't do it. It just doesn't fit my game. And I hear them talking about the games that they play all the time, like this person's game or that person's game. And I'm slowly, it's starting to kind of, like peel back layers of an onion where I'm like, oh, okay, this thing becomes completely my own version of it, right?
And well, that's the thing I love about jiu-jitsu is like, in comparison to other martial arts, you know, and you know, it's all over, but a lot of them are more for the analytical mind. When you get into a lot of those traditional ones, and I understand it's like, okay, these are the techniques you need to do, this, that. But for jiu-jitsu, I love it because you learn the techniques. You have to learn the technique. I feel like there's techniques I'll never want to use, but it's my responsibility to learn them, because if one day I'm showing my son or somebody, it might be techniques that they need to know, and I feel the same with tattooing. It's like, I remember when I first had, was it Franklin Archer wanted me to come out to the shop and work, and the shop I was at the time was very like, no, American traditional. Why would you go there? I'm like, I might not draw like him, but that dude can put some pigment in the skin. I mean, it is like, I want to learn. I need to learn the techniques. Mm-hmm. I might not use the techniques, but I think it's good to know as much as humanly possible. I mean, I think life revolves around like kind of helping each other in knowledge. So it's like, I just want to learn. And that's the thing I love about jiu-jitsu. No matter how good you might think you are, you're not. You just have to keep learning. I mean, it's ongoing. So it's one of those, it's the one martial arts that I felt like it was like, I just have to enjoy the process of, and so just like art and tattooing, it's like, there's no real end product. I mean, it's nice to see your artwork on, in a show, or see it on a person's body walking around and you feel good. Mm-hmm. It does feel good. Yeah. But I think the most fun is doing it. It's like, my happiness is an action, I guess,
Yeah. Yeah. There's this saying that I quote a lot that I really love, that Nelson Shanks, who was a portrait painter, he painted several presidents and all these. He's been dead a few years, but he started this studio in Caminati, or was one of the founders, and he was famous for saying, I want the student who starts on Monday to be like primary in helping the student who starts the following Friday, because they're closer to the problem. And so I like that a lot too. And so we in our Inside Fireside Tattoo Club, we have all kind of layers. It's a kind of a membership based thing we do in Discord. We have all skill sets, from apprentices to 20 plus year veteran tattooers. Andy's a part of the group. And what I've found is a lot of times we'll do things like a client role play night, and I'm trying to help people to manage the consultation process better. But I'm so far removed from the problems that they're dealing with, because I don't have those consultation issues anymore. My clients are very, it's a particular type of person, and we work well together. But I hear someone who's been tattooing for 3 years offer a solution to them that I'm like, holy shit, that sounds great. And I've noticed that as far as parallels to jiu-jitsu, I get frustrated because I'll get in top position. I don't know what to do. And my coach is just like, well, just try to stay there, try to hold it, try to keep it. And then a blue belt will show me something very particular that I could do there. And I'm like, man, thank you so much, dude. That just like gave me another day to work. But the black belt won't tell me that, it's like, it's the guy that's closer to my problem. He's like, yeah, I remember being there,
Like, just try this or that. Yeah. I'll do that with some of the guys, but I'm like, but if Dean Truax, my main instructor, if he says different, listen to him, because he's the professional. I'm just the guy who's kind of helping you, Yeah. But I mean, it makes sense though. If you're closer to the problem, you're gonna know. Mm-hmm. All right. That's a great analogy. I never even thought about that. So
I've spent a little more time on jiu-jitsu than I had anticipated during this little documentary, this project. And it's just because I've found it so interesting, the similarities between the art of tattooing and the art of jiu-jitsu. Whether you're talking about the difficulty of remembering to keep pressure on the opponent's body while you try to gain an advantage or move, or stretching a client's skin while you're trying to pull a clean line in the lower back. It's just been really interesting to me to discover the parallels between the two as I begin my journey in jiu-jitsu, and as I find myself around people like Dave who have years of experience in both of these forms of art. I also managed to convince my good friend and one of my favorite tattooers, Andy Chambers, to fly in from Virginia for a couple of days. Andy has been working on a large project on my back for a couple of years, and it was a good opportunity for me to get a couple of days getting tattooed at Dave's shop, and also for Andy to get away and hang out for a few days.
I started with portraiture, and I was doing portrait stuff before I started tattooing, and then eventually I hated it, but I could still use those little things. Yeah, elements, techniques, little tricks. You know, I used to hate it when people call it tricks, because I thought you were like belittling what we were doing, but it really is. It's just a trick. You know,
everything's kind of just a trick if you want to look at it.
True.
But you know, I feel like what's a trick and what's a technique? You know, it's like I look at it as technique, you know, because it took time and
it's a trick if you're just trying to pull something and stick it in a new place. It's a technique if you understand why you're doing it. You know, like you know what I mean? Like
well,
people steal tricks all the time that don't work. You know?
Yeah, well, a trick would be like the get rich quick scheme,
right?
You know, but a technique is like I put my time in to kind of develop. Yeah. So I understand, because when you say you're like, it's kind of offensive when they say it's a trick, and it's like, if you look at it in that perspective, then it's like,
but you are tricking the person, the viewer, into thinking one thing or another. Like when you look at Norman Rockwell's paintings, like that one of the cobbler with the little shoe.
Yeah.
So he's like directing your eye the whole time. First you look at the scene, then you see what's happening, then you see the size of the shoe. Then you realize the size of the shoe compared to the characters is so small. Then you see the doll on the floor, then it brings you back around with the lighting, and you see they're looking at the shoe that goes on the doll that the two kids are looking at with the cobbler. You know, like, I love that shit. And to take it and use it in a different way in a tattoo, you know?
See, I feel like I'm very two-dimensional on the way that I do my compositions. I play with the compositions. I like to actually develop something so the eye travels in 4 or 5 different directions. I like to create a story on the exterior that people don't know, and maybe years down the road they start to see. But I look at it very two-dimensional, and I'm like, where am I going to place things? Now, like Norman Rockwell, you're going, okay, well, if I build on the light and do this, and then I bring it over here, then I can foreshadow it. And it's just like, I just haven't ever reached that point. Probably won't ever, but I'm going to try.
I think the difference is that he's doing it with lighting because he's doing it with paintings. Like we were talking about earlier, it's different than tattooing. We're doing it with shapes because it's a tattoo. Because we need those shapes to be conveyed correctly, like the wing thing earlier. Right. So it's a visual cue.
Makes sense.
So that's why it's kind of like a trick. You're tricking them into believing the scenario that you created, you know? That next step to me is what you were talking about with that one drawing that you're doing right now, where the lady is laying across, you can see the way it's pushing on the skin. That's the next step to me, because then you're taking that idea of conveying that shape and it's interacting with the other shapes, and that's telling you what to look at, the same way the lighting.
But sometimes I feel like, well, it's because, I'm elementary, I'm a tattooer. So I just draw, but then now maybe it is that gap that bridges you to like the translation of the image. And so it's just like, I just sit there and I think it's like, Jordan, forgive me for saying it, but I love drawing pretty girls with beautiful asses. And the thing is, now I'm going, okay, I've drawn them at every angle, so now what do I do? And then when I was in Greece and I'm at the museums and I'm going, that's where I'm fucking up. I got to start having an interaction. I have to have an ass interaction.
Yeah, me too.
So then I was... I've seen this stuff. I've seen it for fucking years. But the thing about it is, I just think that I just wasn't ready to absorb it.
Just start to think about how those other things affect your main subject matter, in the subtle little shapes, because that's what brings it together.
Instead of being the gruff, mean tattooer, I just try to be nice to people, and then I always kind of think about it, and I always try to give them a little extra than I think they're paying me for, or more if I can, and that would kind of make them want to keep coming back, and I still tattoo people I've been tattooing 22 years ago. Yeah, it's crazy to think it's been that long.
Yeah. But the advantage, I'm in a similar boat. I've been tattooing in the same town for 27 years now, and I see and still work on some of the same people. I don't think there's anything like seeing your healed, aged work, especially not just the evolution of your technical skills, which are artistic skills and everything in between, to help you. Like, there's no greater benefit than that. Looking back and going like,
It
oh,
humbles you. It humbles you because then you look back and you're just like, oh shit, I was doing that wrong, or I want to fix it. I mean, honestly, to tell the truth, if I won the lottery, I think that I would probably I'd probably contact everybody I tattooed in the first 10 years and pay for tattoo removal, and then just spend the rest of my career just redoing their tattoos.
So Athena was finished out and shipped off to San Diego for the bodysuit exhibit. Dave shared a few images from the show. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it out there to get any video footage of it, but it looked like a great time, packed with great artists, great tattooers, tons of awesome submissions. That show is really cool. I've seen submissions from previous years, and Aaron does a good job running that show, putting it together and curating it. I hope you enjoyed this little project. It's something different. I'll be perfectly honest, I've been podcasting with the Fireside Tattoo Network for 11, almost 12 years as of the time of this recording, and I've just gotten a little burnout on the traditional podcast interview style. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to maybe get into someone's day-to-day routine, dig a little deeper into how they work, what types of things they enjoy outside of tattooing and drawing, and things like that. I hope that we pulled that off in this documentary. I want to thank Dave for entertaining us for that week or few days, and everyone else who participated. Thanks to Andy Chambers for coming out and hanging out with us, and thanks to my buddy Dan, who helped so much with everything here at Fireside, for running cameras and basically just being on the ball for everything that we need. I'd love to do a few more of these. If there are artists that you think would be great for a series like this, let me know. They take a little more time to put together, but I think it's worth it. And to me, it's just a lot more fun and entertaining. If you'd like to participate in similar discussions to what we had in this documentary, I'd love to have you as a member in the Inside Fireside Tattoo Club. I'm in there, Dan's in there, Andy's in there, and we're trying to rope Dave in as well. But if you enjoyed any of the old forums that used to happen in tattooing years ago, I think that what we do in Inside Fireside is the closest thing to those, coupled with a lot of live activities and opportunities to meet and hang out with other artists in person. So that's it. Thanks, as always, for supporting what we do, and we'll see you next time.